Now, I don't know whether we should put a graphic content warning ahead of this story, but we'll press on anyway because thousands of emails from Julia Gillard's spin doctor John McTernan have been leaked to the ABC. The emails provide a rare insight into the workings of the former Prime Minister's office while it was under siege.
For more, our political reporter and our very own Edward Snowden on this particular matter, Latika Bourke, joins us now from Parliament House. Latika, good morning. So you're going through the drop and it seems to be extensive. Today's report gives us an insight into some of the quite abusive language and abusive terminology that John McTernan used when he was in that very important position.
Yes, it was quite interesting reading, going through all these emails, Virginia and Michael. Some of them were, I wouldn't say, the most pleasant of reading, and certainly not emails you'd like to flick over while you're eating your breakfast, for instance. But it does seem that bad language, or even foul language, as some would refer to it, was the norm for Julia Gillard's spin doctor, John McTernan. Now, he was a very controversial figure within the government and also outside the government, much of it by his own design. He crafted his image to the Australian media as a real-life version of Malcolm Tucker from The Thick of It, who is a foul-mouthed Scottish political operative, and he seemed to relish in this reputation. And these emails certainly show he did his best to try and live up to that Tucker-esque image. Now, one of the more fascinating insights that we revealed yesterday was that he was in cahoots with the former Labor leader, Mark Latham, encouraging him to continue attacking Kevin Rudd. Of course, that was Julia Gillard's internal political rival, and at one stage even asked staff in the Prime Minister's office to go down to the Parliamentary Library in breach of the rules and help research a column for Mr Latham. So that was a very interesting insight into just how under siege the Prime Minister's office felt it was, that they needed to join up with Mr Latham there. Now, one other insight that we're revealing today on ABC News is, Virginia, this email he sent the day after Julia Gillard's blue tie speech, where she warned about Liberal men wearing blue ties wanting to make abortion a political plaything once more. The day after this, John McTernan sends an email to his junior staff saying, "Are we opposed to the Madigan bill on abortion?" And this was a bill that would have actually restricted abortion access to some women. So not only was he abusive to journalists and also to one business group, telling them that their email had been hacked when they sent out a press release partially praising the opposition's broadband policy back then, of course. He was also incompetent in some of those areas and in this instance very much oblivious as to what Labor's position was, despite gender being a major part of the Gillard government's later narrative.
Now, as you've written in your news stories, he was a highly divisive figure within the Gillard government, even while he's been credited with driving a great number of her strategies. Did Julia Gillard and John McTernan have a good working relationship, despite the disrespectful behaviour clearly from John McTernan? Did he respect her and did she respect him?
Look, I don't think there's any question about his loyalty to Julia Gillard or her loyalty to him. They were very close, and he was considered a very powerful advisor within the Prime Minister's office, partially why he was so divisive, that he was sending around these types of emails in professional communications that many other businesses and organisations would not tolerate from staff. And there was a lot of discontent within the government. He made enemies within and outside. You might remember the opposition was calling for him to be sent back to Britain, yes, because they did not believe that someone on a 457 visa should be employed in the Prime Minister's office with access to security documents. Now, that's not to say that he didn't have his fans inside the government. He did, but they grew fewer and far between as the Gillard government's prospects died.
And we're not going anywhere near the language this morning, but some of the emails that he sent out trying to deep freeze journalists or get back at them is absolutely hair-curling, and the ABC not immune from some of that as well.
No, that's right. Our colleague here in the ABC Canberra Bureau, Simon Cullen, was writing a story when the opposition first raised concerns about John McTernan's 457 skilled worker visa, and Simon Cullen sent him a message to ask if that was correct. He wasn't on a 457, which he was, and John McTernan replied, "Hardly effing relevant," which Simon Cullen published. And after that, well, John McTernan ordered all the staff to cut Simon Cullen Cullen off immediately from all prime ministerial media alerts, transcripts, communications. He told his staff never to talk to Simon Cullen again and that he was, quote, dead. A bit of a worry because Simon Cullen's still breathing and is quite happy today. And he was also on the receiving end of much help from the Prime Minister's office even the day after that email was sent. So maybe they didn't take him too seriously.